Hello, EduMagicians. Welcome to the EduMagic podcast with your host, Dr. Sam Fessich. Dr. Sam is a professor of education, author of EduMagic, and a pumpkin spice latte fan. This podcast is designed for pre-service teachers. Remember, friends, teaching doesn't begin at graduation, but during that first class at 8 a.m. Let's get this party started.
This is Gabriel Carrillo from the EdTech Bites podcast, a proud member of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you are listening to right now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Make sure you check out all the other great podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com. And get ready, because the learning begins in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the EduMagic podcast. Today, I have with me a world changer, Erin Hall. She's fantastic, and we were able to meet. I think we first met on Twitter, and then we met in real life at ISTE, and now we're meeting again through the wonders of the internet. So, Erin, would you mind giving my listeners a little brief introduction of who you are, what you're doing, and how you're killing it in education?
Oh my gosh, you're too nice.
Oh, come on. You're Erin. You're amazing.
Well, I'm Erin, and I teach English 9 and 10 at Chariho High School in Rhode Island. It's in a beach community, a rural beach community. It's a great school to teach at. This is my 4th year teaching, and I also, in my 2nd year teaching, I started an organization called the Young Educators Society of Rhode Island. So that group is basically formed to support and collaborate with beginning teachers in their college pre-service years all the way through year 10. And we do monthly PDs and social networking opportunities. We have a pretty growing big online presence in terms of like social media, and we have a blog now that just started over the summer. So we're just, again, trying to connect as many beginning teachers as possible to support them /us/ all college and me all the way through those really tricky 5 years. We have a 50% burnout rate across the country of teachers in their first 5 years. So getting beginning teachers through those 5 years and onto year 10 so they can come back and mentor other beginning teachers is really important.
I love that. I love that you're speaking into the next generation of teachers, reaching into during their pre-service teacher years, supporting them throughout year 10. And what inspired you to do this?
So my first teaching career or teaching position was at a very small charter school. And what was great about that was that most of the people hired with me, about 70% of the staff at this high school, were all right out of college. We were all in our first year or 2 of teaching. It was a really great environment just socially to have all that support. We're all in the trenches at the same time. And then I switched after that year to a larger, more established public school. And here I'm one of the youngest people that teach at Chariho, which is also great because then I have all the kind of mentor support from these experienced educators. So I thought that after a year in both places, wouldn't it be awesome if we could kind of combine the social supports as well as the experienced mentor supports? Because I feel like that set me up for success really, really well in the first couple years of my teaching experience. And Rhode Island is a very, very small state, so there's no reason why we cannot be coming together in this 50-mile stretch of land.
And I remember us talking about that. You're like, yeah, I'm really 50 miles from end to end. I'm like, wow, that must be nice.
Very small. Very small.
Very small, but very cool too. I think it offers a really unique opportunity to meet face to face and also incorporate those virtual connections.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we have professional development opportunities that we offer up and down the state, and it's really less than an hour for people to get there from any corner of Rhode Island, which is great. So our PD is actually expanding a little bit because this year our State Department of Education expanded their requirements for recertification by offering PLUs, so you have to get a certain number of hours of professional development. So we're actually expanding our opportunities to any teacher in the area for the cohort that we serve through pre-service through year 10. Those events are free because that's the membership they're trying to support, and we don't want people paying money in their beginning years to come to these professional developments, but anyone can come. And then what's nice about that is that we get a lot of really great experienced voices in too. And then we're starting to expand a little bit online. So we have a webinar coming up in December that anyone can join around the world if they would like to, about courageous leadership in education. So kind of expanding that a little bit.
My listeners go to find more, especially about that webinar, because I know we have lots of edumagicians that are like, give me the PD. So where can they find more information?
Yeah, our website, yesri.org, has the blog and the contact information and the links to sign up for the webinar and other stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I'll be sure to
exciting.
pop that into our show notes. This is
Thank
so
you.
exciting. And you're such a groundbreaker in education, creating this organization and this community for young educators in Rhode Island. That's incredible. Kudos to you. Every time I hear about you or I stalk you online, I'm like, oh my gosh, she is amazing. All the wonderful things that you're doing to help support young teachers. So thank you.
I just feel really lucky about the kind of experiences that I had going through pre-service and entering the teaching field right after college. So I just want to be able to share some of those really cool things with other people. And it's a really, really awesome community. Everyone in Rhode Island is wonderful. And we all come from really similar backgrounds too. And most of us went to one of the 2 teaching colleges in Rhode Island. We have a lot of the same backgrounds, and there's no reason why we can't all learn from each other even after we graduate. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. We're on the EduMagic podcast, and I'd be remiss if you didn't talk a little bit about some EduMagic. Could you share a little bit about some areas that can help future teachers become amazing educators of excellence during their college careers?
Something that I did my junior year in college was, and I know you do this a lot in your classes, I hopped online. I had previously had a Twitter, I call it my pre-teacher Twitter, just like, song lyrics and fun pictures and quotes and little things about what I was doing during the day. But then I started seeing Twitter as a really great source of PD, and I just started reaching out to teachers around the world to get inspiration. That morphed into Instagram last year. I just got onto the teacher Instagram sphere, which is amazing.
It's a beautiful space to be.
So beautiful. But what is challenging about that is all navigating like, wow, these teachers have such beautiful classrooms, and also saying like, okay, let's make sure the content is there, the rigor is there too. Mm-hmm. So while it's a great space for inspiration, what I found is that I'll like see something that I absolutely love, or I'll see a tweet or an article or something, and then I'll really try and think about the rigor and the content behind it and try to adapt a similar thing to my classroom that I think would best fit my students. So it's like that extra step is really important. Making sure your social media presence online is really professional and forward thinking. Another thing that I recommend doing is taking a personal leadership assessment. When I was in college, I did not think of myself as a leader of any sort. And then someone made me sit down and take the Clifton StrengthsFinder assessment, which is available online for pretty cheap. And it absolutely opened my eyes. Like, I don't have to be, the person standing in front of a huge audience and garnering support or teamwork or anything to be considered a leader. There's a lot of different other qualities. And it kind of like dives into the personal characteristics that you already have and shows you how to enhance them rather than try to develop ones you don't already have naturally. Mm-hmm. And that kind of personal awareness really helped me in the classroom. I was scared to death of talking in front of students, like going across the hall and asking for help from a colleague that I didn't really know. And that it gave me a lot of tools about like things I probably should have known about myself in college, but just was kind of like still searching for it. Mm-hmm. And I think that awareness really, really helped.
That's really cool. And I'll make sure I link to it in the show notes for people to check it out on their own and see where their strengths lie. I think it's so important that you shared you don't have to be the person in front of the room to be a leader. And that's so true. So what are some ways that future teachers can lead from the middle or lead from their seats in the classroom?
I think one great way is helping other people find their voice. What I tell my students all the time is that I'm not here to teach you what to think. I'm here to teach you how to think. And as long as you're supporting your opinions and beliefs with enough evidence and you have that strong backup, like that's what I'm looking for. So helping other people find their voice, I think, is a really crucial step. But also not being afraid to just keep throwing stuff out there. Like, I'm not, a super great talker in front of a crowd, but I will tweet a lot. You can always find ways to share your voice in ways that you're comfortable with in the professional sphere.
Absolutely. So plug in early and often on social media as a professional educator and start branding yourself as a professional educator, because spoiler alert, you are one. And I love that idea. You might not be speaking in front of a crowd, but you're tweeting out ideas. Maybe you're pinning a really cool bulletin board that you created, or materials that you're using to create a really neat manipulative for students, or way you're adapting curriculum to meet the needs of your learners. There's so many ways that you can lead from the middle and show by example to really elevate yourself in that professional learning sphere online.
Exactly. And even in a school environment, something that I have just started doing over the last 2 years was getting involved in committees. Like, you don't have to lead as a starter of a committee, but you could lead as a member who comes to every other meeting and occasionally inputs their opinions. Just finding those opportunities that already exist and hopping on board.
So if you're on that committee, maybe there's like little subcommittees within one larger one, and you can take a leadership role there, or just, partnering with somebody that you don't know too much about, but you guys are going to make it work, and you're going to build off each other and create something really cool for your students, keeping the students at that focus. Whenever you were studying in Rhode Island as a future teacher, do you have a favorite teaching moment that you'd like to share?
I was in my student teaching placement. So in Rhode Island, we observed a classroom, or I observed a high school classroom for the first semester of my senior year, and then I took over the classroom my second semester. The very first project that I kind of adapted to be my own involved a really big art piece. We were doing storyboards of the trial scene in To Kill a Mockingbird in a grade 10 English class. And the teacher that I was working with, she had a great lesson planned, but I was like, I haven't really introduced a lot of the interdisciplinary stuff that I in my head and in my student teaching practice lesson that I always wanted to do. So I introduced this art piece, and I think just the pride that the students took in being able to show off some skills that weren't normally seen in a typical English class, that really stood out to me. And that was, again, like maybe the very early spring of when I took over that class. So now, since then, I try to include many different ways for students to show mastery of a topic, that whether they're drawing, they're doing a video, they're writing, they're publicly speaking, finding different ways to judge mastery based on student comfort and student preference. I think having that choice, and also including the different subjects. I mean, I partnered with the PE teachers for a unit last year. So physical education and English combined is not usually a thing you would normally do. I'm working with the culinary team at my school to do a project. Getting people into their comfort zones and seeing the pride that they take in those projects is really awesome.
I think that's really unique. And that gives students a different way to show what they know and glow in so many different areas.
It's fantastic. And they talk about these projects that they've done. For example, like the culinary unit, they were making food and we invited community veterans in to talk about World War II just because we read a couple of memoirs. That's something that they would never have had if they didn't have that chance to show their strengths.
That is really special. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
For our student teacher friends that are listening today, it could be a little difficult to approach your cooperating teacher, your mentor teacher, with a new idea. Do you have any tips to help them kind of step out during student teaching in a respectful way, tell their co-op, I'd like to try something new, or I'd like to try or take a risk, or try something that's a little out of the ordinary for that classroom? Do you have any tips or strategies to help them think through that and how to have that conversation?
I think the most important thing is that any teacher who's taking on a student as a mentor probably is excited to help that person find their strengths. I mean, the people who are cooperating teachers are looking for that innovation, and they are only saying yes and signing up because they want to support a student.
Right.
So they're probably more open than you realize. And if you have an honest conversation and you're willing to have that vulnerable moment, like, can I maybe try this thing possibly, please? In a couple of weeks, I'm asking with plenty of advance warning. They're going to jump on board and support you in whatever way you need. It's just getting over that first hurdle. And also having that dialogue early on, sitting down with your co-op and saying, these are my goals. This is what I want to ultimately become when I have my own classroom and I'm teaching. Maybe are there ways to incorporate some of these goals, like interdisciplinary teaching, incorporating technology and a lot of stuff? Are there ways to do that now in my co-op that could set me up for success in the future? And your teacher will probably be like, absolutely, we're already doing half of this, and bring in some new tools from college. Just have that conversation early on, and give them plenty of warning and be on it.
Yeah, and do it in a way that's authentic to you as the student teacher. I love that idea of talking to them early and honestly about your expectations for this experience, because it's your experience too. And also having them share their expectations for you so there's no confusion.
Yeah, I think setting up those very, very clear expectations will make it not only a smoother, but also a more valuable experience for both involved.
Well, Erin, I know that my listeners are going to have to go back and listen to this episode a couple of times. You dropped some major, awesome truth education bombs out there for them to listen to. How can they find you online when they want to connect with you?
Yes, so I'm on Twitter. I love to tweet. Erin Hall 47. And then I know you're supposed to have the same Twitter handle as Instagram handle, but I messed up. MS or Miss Hall Classroom. If you look at Erin Hall 47 on Instagram, it'll show up with my photography page, but there's links to the teacher one too. So you can find it all in kind of the same spot.
And I'll also put the links in there for YesRI so people can find more information about that. And hopefully we'll get a lot of people from the EduMagic community joining on that webinar in December. Can you give us a little teaser of what it's about?
Yes. So I had talked with a friend who is doing a study in Brené Brown's Dare to Lead book. And she's been kind of working on Instagram, just sharing out her own thoughts. And she's not an educator. But I was like, I love this idea. I really want to jump on board. I'm about halfway through the book now. And I've been halfway through the book since June, for total honesty there. I'm working on it. But I loved the first half. And she was really excited. And I thought, what if we can bring this to our teachers so our teachers can learn how to develop these strengths and talents in their students? And then Brené Brown created this whole Daring Classroom initiative literally 3 weeks after I sat down with this friend to have coffee. And so we jumped on board and we've been diving through the resources, and she's going to take the study that she's been doing and she's going to incorporate the Daring Classrooms piece into it, and then run with this webinar that we're going to offer for anyone who signs up all throughout December. It's going to be free to open to the public, and then it's going to go into our member section of the. So if you want to access to the webinar, it's going to be available all throughout December.
Excellent. Thank you so much for all your time today, Erin. You are rocking it in education, and it's been awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
And there you have it, EduMagicians. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends. For more EduMagic, check out sfessage.com and follow Dr. Sam on Twitter and Instagram @sfessage. Until next time, you have the EduMagic within you.